At times, when certain elements of the different creative projects that I were working on is a bit slow, I have decided to see if I could be basically a consultant on somebody else's product launch or on their crowdfunding campaign. And in general, this has gone very badly. It hasn't worked. Well, why is that? Well, first of all, it takes a lot of conversations with a lot of people in order to figure out whether or not you can work together with somebody. And I'm talking about that both ways, whether or not they want to work with me and whether I would want to work with them. So, and there are a lot of people who you end up saying, well, no, this is not something that I want, a project that I want to be involved with. I don't think this is going to work. Even if people post something like, I'm looking for a crowdfunding expert to help me run this campaign from A to Z. Well, what does it mean to run a crowdfunding campaign from A to Z? Well, a lot. That's exactly the kinds of things we're going over in this video. If you really wanted somebody to run the campaign from A to Z, that's a lot of work, and they're going to therefore need to be paid a lot of money. If they're going to be working for you full-time for several months to do everything necessary, well, that's a lot of money. And very few people that I know of who are trying to, or very few people, no one that I know of, really, that's the issue, or one of the issues, that if you're trying to raise money through a crowdfunding campaign, you probably don't have the money sitting in the bank to pay somebody for several months of work in order to do everything from A to Z to launch the campaign. If somebody just had that money available and sitting in their bank account, rather than using it to pay somebody to run a Kickstarter campaign, they would probably just use it to make their product. So that's one reason, that it's just expensive. And so who is going to pay that? It does seem rather common when I'm talking to people about that for them to say, well, I don't have any money, but I will be willing to bring you on as a partner and give you a cut of whatever is raised on Kickstarter. And that's always a flat no. I am not interested in that, for me as a consultant. And I think that's going to be the case with a lot of people who would have Kickstarter experience or other crowdfunding experience, because we spend a lot of our time running our own companies, managing our own products, trying to take them through crowdfunding. And as a result, we're taking on a lot of risk, but then there's potentially a lot of reward if everything goes well. Well, so if I'm thinking about being a consultant for somebody, I'm not trying to become your business partner and take on all that risk. When it's time for me to say, all right, let me work on somebody else's campaign, I would want just to be paid fairly for the amount of time that I spent on that campaign. Then if it goes well, fantastic. I'm very happy for you. If it goes badly, well, you took the risk. That's also on you. I'm not looking to take on other risk. Also, if you are starting to offer somebody a cut of the campaign, and there's a lot that we could say about the math behind that, but if you're to the point where you're saying, well, I don't have any money, but I'll offer that person a cut, you are starting to move beyond just bringing them on to run the campaign. And we should definitely put quotes around the just bringing them on to run the campaign, because as we've already talked about, just running the whole campaign is a whole lot of work. But now we're moving just beyond working for you kind of as a contract employee to run the campaign for you. You're actually moving into more of a business partner relationship, because you're going to be splitting funds. You're kind of going in together in order to try to get some type of return on the back end. And maybe in rare cases, there are people who would want to go in and do that, but it's going to be very rare. If I talk to somebody by video call and they say, well, I don't have any money, but would you be willing to take a cut of the project? You're talking about a business partner kind of relationship, and I just met this person 10 minutes ago by video call. There's no way in the world I would ever try to become somebody's business partner after just meeting them for 10 minutes on a video call, and especially somebody who wanted to do that. If you're offering a business partner kind of relationship without any money to somebody who you just met by a video call, you're not somebody to want to be in a business partner relationship anyway. Sometimes I talk to people who have a whole lot of e-commerce experience that want to do a crowdfunding campaign, potentially to launch some type of new product, or they have some kind of new idea. And sometimes they'll post and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody to run this whole crowdfunding campaign. But actually, they don't need that. They have a lot of experience setting up websites and selling products online and doing advertisements and things like that. They just don't have any experience with crowdfunding specifically, and they might only need to have an hour or an hour and a half conversation with somebody who understands crowdfunding so they can get a better understanding of what crowdfunding is. ask the questions and get them answered. I've done that quite a bit because I find that's actually pretty common, that when people say, hey, I'm looking for somebody to run this whole campaign, actually by the time we sit down and talk for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, they get a lot of information that they didn't have before. And that's exactly what they needed. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. Actually, I really like that because as far as helping people goes, this person didn't need to hire somebody for the next 90 days to do all this web stuff. They needed to have a very serious conversation with somebody who was knowledgeable about crowdfunding, get a better understanding of it, then they can go and execute. And so that happens quite a bit. A large hang-up always to having somebody else do everything for you is the amount of work that it takes to even get somebody set up. Like, if somebody really wanted somebody to do everything from A to Z, then they're going to have to be hooked up to your social media. They're going to have to be, have access to your Facebook pages. You're going to have to hook up like your credit card to a Facebook business manager so that that person can, run ads if you're running ads on Facebook and Instagram, and just charge your credit card for that work. They're going to need access to all that. They're really going to have to understand your product. And this goes back to your point about the best person to sell your stuff is yourself. So if somebody said, hey, I've got this product here, or even more commonly, I found somebody says, I have this idea for this product. Can we take this to crowdfunding? Well, they can give me an idea about what this product is in 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. But I'm still very not knowledgeable on that product. It's definitely the other person who has all the knowledge, especially in cases, which is also many of the cases when people are talking about this, where a prototype hasn't even been created. They're saying, well, I've got this idea for a product that will be like this and could be like that and so forth, but they don't even have a prototype yet to show. And that's a major obstacle. If you really wanted somebody, if you had this product and you had this idea, you're probably the one who needs to prototype it yourself, because you're the one who knows what it is supposed to be. If you don't even have a working prototype, I wouldn't go and try to hire on a crowdfunding expert. You need to get your prototype going, because you need that prototype in order to take pictures with it, to make videos about it, or to talk about it, to ensure that it can actually be made, at least in prototype stage. Then you got to take the prototype to a manufacturer and make sure that your prototype can actually be manufactured. And that's all stuff that is really on the project creator. In order to bring somebody on, in order to do all of that, you're basically really developing an employee relationship with them, which probably should go on for an extended period of time. Because it's certainly the case that you may not have time to run the whole crowdfunding campaign yourself. So what you're going to do is you're going to hire another employee. So it's still going to be internal to your company. It's not going to be hiring an external company to do it for you, but you're going to do it internal to your company, but you're going to have somebody else who is going to be the specialist in running all of that marketing and doing the Kickstarter campaign while you focus on other parts of the business. That could be possible. But then when you bring this person in, you're going to have to teach them a lot of things about your company, about your products. Maybe they have some of the web experience already, but then you're going to have to be in kind of constant communication about what's going out on social media, about what you want to convey on landing pages. All of this information that's got to go back and forth between these people. It may be easier for it to be someone who is internal, and they may have to go through that whole process with you an entire time before they're really comfortable about flying alone and then running the whole campaign from A to Z themselves, because they've already been through it. I think that knowledge transfer part is a major reason why you don't see other companies that spring up and say, hey, we'll be your crowdfunding company. Just bring us your ideas and we'll crowdfund it for you. Because of the amount of information and knowledge that has to be conveyed between the creator and somebody who could run something like that. It's a tremendous amount, which would make it very expensive. And here again, if the creator had the money to hire on another company, why wouldn't they just use the money to make that product themselves? So the customer that the crowdfunding agency would be looking for would be a very specific type of customer, a customer who has a lot of money, who can pay for a lot of time and effort to do the crowdfunding campaign, but yet for some reason doesn't have enough money to just make the product, or doesn't want to use that money to make the product. So the number of customers a company like that would have is probably very small. And so all of those are reasons why I feel like I have been most effective when I am talking to somebody about their crowdfunding campaign or their product launch, working as kind of a high-level consultant, and talking about things at a very high level instead of trying to be down in the weeds about running a Facebook campaign for them, ad campaign, or taking pictures for their Instagram, or all of that stuff that has to be done, but that is all the down in the weeds kind of work. That's very difficult to outsource to somebody who doesn't understand your company and doesn't understand your product. A consultant type of thing for crowdfunding is probably best at that high strategic level. And that can be extremely important, especially if you don't have any crowdfunding experience or have never launched a product before. Talking with somebody who has actually been through that process many times, getting your questions answered, and talking to them and having a really good conversation for an hour or 2 hours, or sometimes, an hour a week, do some things and then let me come back and talk to you about that and see what my next steps are going to be. That's the times when I think, I really helped somebody. It's been in those situations. It hasn't been trying to run their Kickstarter campaign for them.